Crazy.
After hearing the details of the nonsensical story, unsupported by even a single shred of evidence, the mediator convinced you to accept a tiny fraction of your supposed damages. Your get-rich-quick scheme having failed, here you are back at Tro.
The footage no one was meant to see has hit the internet. Everyone thought Justin Bieber's mentorship with Hollywood's elite was a fairy tale comeback, until a leaked video from one of Will Smith's private parties showed him in a position that detonated that illusion in seconds. The clip, insiders say, didn't just expose Bieber. It exposed who was in the room, who controlled the camera, and who had been protecting that circle for years. Within hours, the same whispers that followed Diddy's March 2024 raids were back. Secret parties, young stars on the clock. Billion-dollar reputations built on silence. The lawsuits against Smith are already stacking beside Diddy's trafficking case. Bryce Gray's $50 million claim naming both men as abusers is gaining traction. And Bieber's own unfollows and refusals to speak now look less like distance and more like fear. But the reactions don't fit. The stars retreat. Their teams deny. Yet no one demands proof the footage is fake. It's as if everyone already knows what's real. And if this single leak can trigger this kind of scramble, the next one could burn through the entire industry before dawn.
Now we should say that, remember, Diddy and his team were very upset when they found out that this footage was part of the documentary, and they tried to shut it down, but, you know,
the act of taping it is what is so
the
awful.
Act of taping it, right.
Without
Diddy would say that I didn't authorize that video going out, and the argument they've made is that he's the one who has the right, that he owns that footage.
The footage spreads before anyone can contain it, and the first reaction inside the celebrity PR circuits isn't outrage, it's fear. Insiders claim calls start bouncing between Beverly Hills managers and legal teams by dawn. A source close to one of Will Smith's longtime associates says the instruction was simple. Freeze everything, delete anything recent that could connect to that night. What night? No one will say on record, but the whispers trace back to a private event in 2024, just months after Diddy's houses were raided by federal agents. The context is radioactive. Diddy's lawyer had already called those raids a witch hunt, but the damage was irreversible. Every young star who ever stood next to him was suddenly fair game for re-examination. That's when someone digs up the old clip of Diddy's 48 Hours with Justin from 2009, the one where the mogul promises a teenage Bieber the run of his Lamborghini. In isolation, it's harmless nostalgia. In this new atmosphere, it looks different. What exactly were these mentors offering, and what were they really trading? The lines blur fast. That's where the story stops being about a single leak and starts looking like exposure that's been years in the making.
But over here in the legal world, when it comes to the Hollywood industry and just actors in music in general, not even just in Hollywood in general, but an interview via Tasha K's channel from Bilal, who is, I believe, Will Smith's ex-best friend, has applied more pressure. And the man has come to bring in the conversation of Brashear Gray and how Brashear Gray was allegedly essayed by Will Smith from the back passage.
People who've seen the original Will Smith footage describe an energy that feels staged, lights low, everyone acting like it's routine, not risky. No one calls it incriminating outright, but the context makes it impossible to dismiss. When Diddy's freak-off allegations surface again in early 2025, that same insider network snaps shut. Suddenly, Bieber's online silence doesn't read as indifference anymore. It reads as compliance. Around that time, Bryce Gray's rumored lawsuit hits social media, claiming both Smith and Diddy used their influence to orchestrate mentorship sessions that turned coercive. The figure attached, $50 million, isn't what shocks people. It's the claim that Gray isn't the only one preparing legal action. Industry sources talk about non-disclosure agreements locked inside management archives, about talent agents repositioning their rosters before subpoenas arrive. The machinery moves quietly, but you can feel the pressure under it. No one's sure whether the lawsuit will survive court. But its existence alone reopens doors everyone thought sealed since the mid-2010s.
My feelings for him are just sadness. Like, I feel sorry for somebody who was a young man in a industry who I believe was completely violated and used by people without, his permission, and he had to just go with it because these were powerful men. And in doing so, he was promised more acting gigs, more career gigs, and none of that ever came. He was angry, upset, and it went down a very problematic route of substances, aggression, being charged, being arrested for bad things that he was doing himself.
Bieber's timeline inside that network reads like a breadcrumb trail that was always visible, just ignored. March 2024, federal raids on Diddy's homes in Miami and LA. 2 days later, old videos of Diddy and a teenage Bieber trend again, captioned with disbelief. April. Bieber unfollows Usher, his original mentor, and posts nothing for weeks. June. Usher's past interviews resurface. The one where he said he lived with Diddy at 13 and saw things a kid shouldn't have seen. None of these moments prove anything by themselves, but placed side by side, they start to form a map. Even the public gestures, Diddy gifting cars, Smith inviting rising stars to private mentorship dinners, now look loaded. The optics are poisoned. Insiders tell us Bieber's inner circle has been warned not to mention those years in interviews. They're told it's brand protection. But the silence itself has become evidence. The only people talking are the ones with nothing left to lose, and that's a dangerous demographic when reputations are worth billions.
They said that they would take legal steps, and nothing never happened. Because you know why? I responded to him, and I sent something to the bar letting them know that he told the lie.
Here's where it stops making sense. If Bieber were just collateral in the fallout, there'd be no reason for the panic behind the scenes. Yet, according to multiple managers, calls have gone out across Los Angeles asking digital teams to scrub archives connected to both Will Smith's and Diddy's foundations. Why? The official explanation is privacy protection. But the timing ruins that cover. At the same time, 50 Cent announces his Diddy expose for Netflix, hinting it will reveal names everyone already knows. That statement sends publicists into overdrive. The leak of the Smith party footage now looks less like an accident and more like a warning shot, someone showing the first card before dropping the rest. Even Smith's team doesn't seem coordinated. One representative claims the video is misinterpreted, while another promises full transparency that never comes. Meanwhile, Tokyo Tony and Jaguar Wright resurface on live streams insisting Bieber was on the clock at those events. They laugh as they say it, but no one else is laughing. Too many details overlap with Diddy's pattern for comfort.
I'm sorry, I'm just I'm in this moment right now. This is crazy. Sorry. People don't really know how much what it does to you when something that you love is taken from you and thrown away like it don't even matter, and then they move on with their lives and you're stuck. You're stuck. During those years, you're still stuck 21 years later.
What's being whispered now is that Bieber's disappearance from his usual circles wasn't voluntary. Friends talk about him cutting off contacts overnight, including people he'd known since his teenage years. He skips public appearances, misses Usher's February 2024 Super Bowl show despite being invited, and avoids any questions about Diddy in interviews. One insider calls it containment mode, suggesting he's cooperating quietly while lawyers untangle his contracts. But cooperation with who? That's the part no one will confirm. The timeline fits uncomfortably with the mounting legal trouble around Diddy and the rumors that federal investigators have started pulling social media metadata from years-old accounts. Meanwhile, the Will Smith element keeps mutating. Sources insist this wasn't the first time his private mentorship events overlapped with Diddy's circle. The more people deny, the closer the dots connect. And if the connections hold, Bieber might be less of an outlier and more of the thread that ties every scandal together.
The feelings that I have about the documentary, man, it was just old news, and they took a couple of with the footage from Puff from the days that's leading up him to get arrested, and the incidents with the people from the courts, the two people from the courts. So it was nothing new.
By late 2025, the industry looks like it's eating itself. Multiple documentaries, from TMZ's 3-part special to ABC's Secret Life of Diddy, start outlining the same disturbing structure. Invitations, isolation, loyalty tests, silence. Each feature includes names that orbit Bieber's: Usher, Jaden Smith, Brescia Gray, all allegedly caught inside the same network of mentorship and manipulation. Every time a new episode drops, another set of photos disappears from Instagram, another celebrity account goes private. Diddy remains behind bars, but his influence stretches beyond him. Even Will Smith's public calm feels strategic. Behind it, legal filings and sealed settlements suggest a scramble to control damage before the next wave hits. People close to Bieber hint he's been advised not to trigger legal exposure by speaking publicly. Yet every silent week raises suspicion. If he's the victim, why is he still protecting them? If he isn't, what does that say about the system that made him untouchable? The contradiction doesn't resolve. It grows.
Continue to engage in all these freak-offs with him, and he sounds really pissed off.
Hey, I really don't know what's going on with you, but I just want to just give you a heads up that I'm about to really disappear on you. You feel me? I'm not going to be playing these games with you at all, at all. So I don't know, you think you silent treating me, and you think I'm going to be, nah. You'll have a rude awakening. You'll just have silence.
The final turn in this section arrives quietly. A name surfaces in an internal leak from a legal filing tied to Brescia Gray's suit. It references a young male performer who attended both Diddy and Smith's gatherings in 2014 and 2015. The same period Bieber was filming music videos in LA and appearing at Kardashian events. The filing doesn't name him, but the overlap is unmistakable. What follows is silence again, colder this time. Publicists retreat, the leak vanishes from mainstream outlets, and the networks move on to lighter headlines. But inside the industry, no one believes it's over. What the public sees as scandal cleanup, insiders describe as evidence suppression. Everyone's waiting for the next file drop, the next video, the next mistake. Because if the circle protecting these men starts to crack, the fallout won't stop with one leak. It will pull down everything built on it. And that's the part no one wants to admit aloud.
Of coming forward, they've been afraid of what he could potentially do to them within the industry, what he could do to them professionally, maybe even personally. And so yes, it's been a dark secret they've held on to for a very, very long time.
What begins as a Hollywood scandal now starts to resemble a bloodline of control. The same names repeat in whispers, not because of coincidence, but because the pattern feels generational. Behind Diddy's downfall, behind Will Smith's mentorships, there's a network that looks more like inheritance than influence. Managers, handlers, and brand architects move protégés like chess pieces. The so-called protégés don't choose where they go, they're chosen. When one falls out of line, another takes his place. Industry veterans call it the rotation, a quiet system that keeps access contained within a handful of untouchable families and executives. That's why Bieber's alleged party footage is more dangerous than any leaked clip before it. It crosses bloodlines. It ties the Smiths' empire to Diddy's empire, and both to the same young stars raised under their mentorship. The money trails don't lie. Overlapping sponsorship deals, shared managers, mirrored brand endorsements. On paper, it's business. Off paper, insiders call it groomed allegiance. When someone breaks it, like Bryce or Gray reportedly did, the retaliation is swift and precise. Careers stall, reputations crumble, and files disappear. But this time, the leaks aren't stopping, and that's what terrifies them most.
Are you surprised by the evidence that's already coming out in the criminal trial?
No, I'm not surprised. I experienced some of those things. Witnessed violence.
Industry insiders are now speaking less about scandal and more about collapse. They describe the environment in the weeks after Diddy's arrest as triage. Publicists were told to build alternate narratives fast, one for empathy, one for denial, and one for silence. Will Smith's team reportedly leaned on the second, pushing controlled interviews and positive PR spins that now read like damage control rehearsals. At the same time, a flurry of calls went out from FBI-adjacent investigators collecting materials that weren't supposed to exist. Flight records, location metadata, internal photos from private residencies. No one knows if those materials are part of a broader investigation or just insurance for someone higher up. But the tension is physical. Celebrities who once bragged about their access now dodge questions about those same circles. Usher's old comments about Diddy's crazy environment resurface, quoted everywhere, and suddenly feel less nostalgic, more like testimony. When he said, "I got a chance to see some things," it sounded harmless then. Now, it sounds like the start of a confession.
Man, this timeline is crazy, man.
I know. So many things coming at one time.
Meanwhile, attention swings toward the Smith family's fortress of secrecy. Jaden and Justin's long friendship, once marketed as youthful rebellion, now reads differently in public memory. The Coachella clip, the hug, the kiss on the cheek, replays through the lens of everything that's followed. Social media comments flip from jokes to postmortems. Some call it proof of indoctrination, others call it trauma resurfacing. Insiders claim the Smith compound in Calabasas became the quiet replacement for Diddy's LA mansion after federal raids made his properties untouchable. Private gatherings continued, just under new hosting. The guest lists changed slightly, but the hierarchy didn't. At the top, Will. Around him, producers, managers, and the same artists who owed their careers to the network now under suspicion. The party label fades. These are meetings, workshops, spiritual alignment nights. The phrasing changes, the behavior doesn't. One former attendee calls them auditions for protection. Whatever you call it, Bieber's connection to that circle now looks less voluntary, more inherited.
Did Phil explain why he's speaking out now?
He said he's speaking out because he believes Diddy's a predator. He wants accountability, and he doesn't want someone like this to run unchecked in the future.
Even peripheral names are starting to feel the fallout. Artists who built careers through Bad Boy Records or Overbrook Entertainment find themselves blocked from deals, unfollowed by sponsors, quietly replaced on festival lineups. The media claims it's coincidence. Insiders call it cleansing. Reputation management firms are reportedly sending invoices with no description beyond containment work. Lawyers chase settlements before questions reach deposition. But the real shift happens underground. Small YouTube journalists and podcasters pushing fragments of leaked DM exchanges, internal emails, flight logs connecting the same clusters of dates and cities. The public may not have proof, but the picture is forming. It's no longer about whether these networks existed. It's about how much of Hollywood they actually built. And with Diddy jailed and Will under civil fire, the infrastructure that kept everyone quiet is cracking from both ends.
A shocked and devastated Diddy spotted at the home where his ex suddenly and mysteriously died.
Every insider story points back to one theme: control through access. When Terrence Howard says, "Puffy invited me, and I said no," That one refusal suddenly feels monumental. It proves there were choices. Rare ones. The others didn't or couldn't refuse. Some say they were chasing fame. Others say they were coerced. Whatever the motive, the aftermath is the same. Silence, sudden breakdowns, inexplicable career shifts. Bieber's case is the most visible. A megastar raised by the system, now seemingly trying to erase it from his past. His refusal to speak, his deleted posts, his public breakdowns that follow every resurfaced clip. It all fits the model of a man fighting ghosts that still have lawyers. Yet even with the evidence closing in, no one from his camp offers a narrative. Not denial, not defense, nothing. It's as if every person tied to him signed the same invisible contract. Speak, and the empire burns. But maybe that's exactly what's already happening.
If you had day 17 in the Diddy trial as the biggest one yet, guess what? Bingo, you won, because today was probably the most eventful day as far as things that happened that were said on the stand, and most importantly, things that the judge said, because Diddy almost got kicked out of his own trial.
The industry now feels like a closed set after a storm. Cameras off, debris everywhere, everyone pretending the lights still work. The documentaries on streaming platforms keep widening the crater. Each one drops new fragments, old party guest lists, accounts of initiation weekends, even claims that Diddy's own mother exposed him to excess at a young age. That detail, that this cycle might have begun decades before, reframes the entire narrative as generational corruption, not just celebrity misconduct. The phrase hidden culture keeps appearing in statements from insiders, meaning a code that every rising star eventually encounters. Whether you obey it or not decides how far you go. And the leaks connected to Bieber, to Will Smith, to Diddy, they're being interpreted as fractures in that code. The people leaking them aren't just exposing individuals. They're burning an entire unwritten rule book that's kept Hollywood's top tier untouchable for decades. Now, every silence feels like an admission. Brands stall campaigns, networks cancel appearances, journalists claim no comment more than they report. Bryshar Gray's lawsuit might never see a courtroom, but it's already weaponized. Its existence legitimizes every rumor that came before it. The 50 million figure becomes symbolic, the price of exposure. And while Smith and Diddy once represented two sides of Hollywood's power spectrum, one polished, one raw, their overlap now feels inevitable. What linked them wasn't genre or fame. It was control, the same pattern of mentorship, the same culture of secrecy, the same insistence that this is how the game works. If that's true, then Bieber's silence isn't weakness, it's survival. But survival inside the system means complicity outside it. That's the tension eating every conversation now, from boardrooms to fan forums. Who's a victim, and who's protecting the architecture that made them one? So what happens if another name drops? What if another video surfaces, or another actor files suit and names the same hosts, the same addresses, the same 48-hour mentorships? At what point does the industry stop pretending this is coincidence and start calling it design? How many careers were built on contracts signed under pressure? How many of these friendships were actually recruitment? And who else knew exactly what was happening? Drop your thoughts and theories below, because this story isn't closing, it's spreading, and the next move won't come from Hollywood's gatekeepers. It'll come from whoever finally decides they've stayed quiet long enough.